Good Karma brand station.
This is Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, now live in Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
It is with an unspeakably heavy heart that we welcome you to Week 8 of the NFL season. Today, your Cleveland Browns, Jim Donovan's Cleveland Browns, take the field today in search of their second win as they face the Baltimore Ravens.
He is with us, and let's go get it done for Jim and Cheryl and Megan. Come on, Browns.
A win like this is required to change the season around. We have to continue to come to work and apply ourselves every single day and keep scratching and clawing. Like we got a long way to go.
Jameis, quick play fake. Jameis to throw. Jameis lofting, end zone, up and into the end zone. David Njoku, touchdown, Browns! And they take the lead, 12-10 on a 23-yard touchdown pass. Jameis Winston, David Njoku.
I've been starving for this opportunity. I'm happy that we got this win for them. This was a fan base win.
Jameis to snap. Here's the blitz. Jameis throwing right. Tillman caught it. 10-5. Tillman, touchdown!
As long as I've been around, he's been the voice of the Browns. He's been, calling plays since my first sack to some of the very last ones. So it's definitely a hard loss, and we all felt it. We appreciate everything that he's brought to being a Brown and being part of this organization, because there was no one like him.
Chubb stays in the backfield. Jameis to throw. Jameis is high. Jameis going deep. Has Tillman. End zone. Touchdown, Browns!
It was electrifying. I like being in games where it makes a heart race. Makes my heart race. When the competition rises, we got to rise to it. Stuff like that gets me going.
Lamar Jackson has the football. Browns rushing for Lamar. Flushed out. Lamar chased by Za'Darius. Lamar Jackson avoids Za'Darius. He's got to throw it. Directing traffic. Pump fake. Now throwing. End zone. Back corner. No good. Incomplete. The Browns win.
I told you guys I would love nothing more than to give this game ball to the family of Jim Donovan.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
You just knew it. You knew it. You felt it. So many things happened in this game that are unexplainable. And it all added up to a Browns win. This one's for you, Jim Donovan. You can't even write stories this good sometimes, folks.
Jim, I know you're smiling. We are. The Browns beat the Ravens.
This one's for Jim. Team on three. 1, 2, 3.
Here are your hosts, Bo Bishop and Nathan Zagura.
All right, let's do it live on a Monday edition. Bo, Z, Gibbe, cavalcade of folks through the next couple of hours. That was unlike anything I've ever seen. That was unlike anything I think any of us could have ever seen. If you did not believe in divine intervention before, I don't know how to explain it to you, because there were so many impossible, improbable things that happened in that game, and they are unexplainable. And I thought you were brilliant. Thanks, I thought Andrew was brilliant. I thought Gibby, the way you guys, your whole group, doing it with Jim's picture there. You get in I'll turn it over to you, and I know that I can't imagine where you emotionally, what the last 72 hours have been like, and then to go to that booth and call a game, and then for it all to happen in such a storybook way. It honestly defied logic.
I thought I was completely drained and spent of emotion, but apparently I still have some emotions in me right now. It was magical. It's something I'll never forget as long as I live. Andrew and I, and then even Yak when he came in, we were all kind of like pregame. They're going to win. Like, they have to win.
They got to win.
They have to win. And, you think about all the things that happened in that game that were definitely improbable, and I'll just go to two that happened towards the end when you really needed it. Was, Dustin Hopkins' field goal goes in off of the upright. Okay. Yeah. Which I don't believe I have seen in that stadium since our good friend Ted's wife passed.
Yeah.
And in that game, we won off of kiss off of the uprights. Mm-hmm. And so he and I actually texted. He's walking by right now. Yeah. We texted like immediately when that happened in the game. And I was like, that's the first thing that I thought of. And then you go to the Kyle Hamilton, he has it. It's basically a perfect pass to Kyle Hamilton. Hits him right in stride. It's feathery. It was not like it was a rocket. It was just a beautiful ball to Kyle Hamilton. And he drops it and then catches it and then drops it and then catches it. And I think on the call, I think I just kept saying, I'm telling you, this none of this makes sense.
Yeah.
Except it makes perfect sense. It just had to be that way for Jim. And when they won, and I appreciate everybody who has sent their support to Megan and Cheryl and everybody who's had, their kind words about, Andrew and my call at the end. It meant something. It meant a great deal to his family yesterday.
Yep.
All of it. And it culminates with, and I'm sure you've seen this now, I went down to the locker room after the game and I was, just kind of, I don't even know what I was. Gibbe did a great job, caught us all back in. We took a picture, holding the picture, which I know you don't follow me, but people who do have seen me on social. And then we walked out, and I went down, did my post game with Tequila Fila, and we had a nice embrace. And, I was thinking just how special, again, the Greenbrier time was for somebody like Tequila or like Jordan, who didn't know really Jim, but they got to be around him for 9 straight days. And, none of us will ever look at Colin Jost the same, as a result of our time with Jim Donovan at the Greenbrier. So, and then I went in the locker room and talked to various players, and the person I really wanted to talk to was Coach. And so I waited for him to come out, and we embraced, and he had the game ball in his hand. He goes, "I'm going to Hinckley right now to give this to the Donovan family." And I said, that's awesome. Awesome. And I mean, for him and AB to go out there, and then Megan texted me the picture, and I was like, those are people who get it. It has not been the season we've wanted thus far at all. But when you think about from a big picture and what's actually important, this game, it's like if take like the Buckeyes in Michigan. If either one, not that the Buckeyes ever had bad seasons anymore, but let's say that they did, the season feels okay because you won that game. You beat Michigan at the end of the year, or vice versa.
Yes.
This, to me, was that game for the Browns because of the enormity of the emotion around it. And it was for a grieving community. They play the video before the game, and it was like it just wiped out the stadium. You could tell. A lot of people crying. People were turning up looking at us in the booth. And then to have that, it was cathartic. It was release. It was a celebration. It was what it had to be. I mean, this game had to end with the Browns winning, with that game ball being delivered to the Diamonds, with magic. I mean, it was magic is how they won that game, and obviously good football and all of that. But there were things that happened that you'll just never convince me otherwise, that Jim did not have a hand in it. And it was just incredibly special. And I was I don't know who I was talking to, if it was Ken or Cranes this morning. And I was like, I'm kind of glad they put that video out, because I watched, because I did not remember in the moment what I said at all. Andrew said, because you're blacked out. You're so locked in the moment. You're speaking so from, the depths of your soul. And that was just pure, raw everything. And it was just such a powerful moment. I watched it back and I was like, you only get one shot at something like that. It's live. And I was just very happy. I thought Andrew did such a great job, and the message he received. Again, I always do my broadcast for an audience of one, which was Jim. Jim thought I did a good job. I did a good job, period. Yesterday it was for, Jim and for Megan and for Cheryl, and they were, I know how pleased they were and how much it meant to them, so that made me feel really, really good. I just emotionally, it's been a, yesterday was a long, long day, and it obviously, like I said, I feel drained, and then we play that, and I'm start crying again, but it was just, it's something I'll never forget. I wore the same outfit, except for obviously I had the Jim shirt on yesterday that I wore for that Thursday night in in Cleveland against the Jets when we clinched the playoffs. And I am superstitious about stuff like that. I have a picture in my house of me and him from that photo that I tweeted out upon the news of his passing in my house, and I actually made one for Jim and wrote a nice note to him on it a year ago and gave it to him after that game. And I know that there was just so much. It was just special. It's indescribable. And we talk about in the time of division and a time, and in fact even in our own football universe, right, with the Browns, it was going in this game was a time of division. There were players unhappy with fans unhappy with players, and we always talk about sports as the great unifier. And I think I said yesterday, Jim Donovan was the great unifier here today, and you could feel it. It was palpable, and it was incredibly special to be a part of that and to be able to help honor a man that I truly admired and respected and loved.
I thought I cannot imagine how proud he was of you looking down. So much of what made Jim so great was his preparedness. He was really perfect when it came to preparing. He was a walking encyclopedia. He could remember anything that had ever happened. He could remember time, place, distance, down, game. A lot of these games were forgettable, quite honestly. The majority of his time, this organization didn't win a lot, and he was the one thing that we did well. Him and Joe Thomas, we could play left tackle, and you get a damn good call on the radio. Those are the two things that you were guaranteed as a Browns fan for many, many falls. And his preparedness, his perfection, all of those things. But also, and this is the part that I think was so special that, and I think that's very interesting. You said about, I'm glad that video is out there because you don't remember, because when you're in those moments, you don't. You're just speaking from the heart. And what comes from the heart is true emotion. And what spilled out was all of that. It was the true emotion. And guess who else had pure emotion? Jim. All these videos that are going around of all these iconic calls that he made, and you see him, and you see how he's reacting to things that are happening, and he's looking in the booth. You look at Gibby.
He loves it. I love that about him.
Always looks at Gibby to like, do you see? Like, come on, like what's happening, right? I mean, it was all there. I'm going to tell you what, that is as must-win a game as the Cleveland Browns have ever played.
I agree. It had to be.
There's no other way that could end. There couldn't. And it wasn't just the doink in from Hop. It wasn't just the drop on what is the easiest interception Kyle Hamilton has probably had since he was in the third grade. I mean, that was a third-grade floater. Just go grab it, and he didn't.
Right to him.
The Bateman drop into the sun. When is the last time you saw a receiver lose the ball in the sun at our stadium in October?
And get hit in the face. That was wild.
They doinked out a kick.
Yeah.
Tucker, I mean, there was so much. It was like, man, it had it all. And also, like, it had to end that way too, I think. Because if you kneel it out, it had to be, and Andrew did such a great job describing that final play,
which went on forever.
It went forever.
I'm like, will somebody please tackle Lamar Jackson?
So about halfway through the fourth quarter, I made the decision. I'm like, I'm gonna sync you guys up to TV, so I'm gonna get this to where it works, because I'm like this. I need to hear it. I wanted to hear it, and I couldn't imagine being someone if you weren't watching and listening, because without the ability to see the play, you're like, why are we not tackling him?
Yeah.
What is he doing?
He's like chased by Za'Darius. Za'Darius misses him. Right? He gets away from Za'Darius.
My gosh, just go down, Lamar. For crying out loud, go down.
There was when I walked out afterwards, and I walked through the players area. I got to tell you something. I've long been a big fan of DeJuan Jones's, and he came in, he saw me, and he just hugged me. He goes, "I'm so sorry about your friend Jim," and I was just like, man. And I think I talked to his mom, and I'm like, "You raised an incredible young man. I could not be a bigger fan." And by the way, looked great at left tackle.
He did, yeah.
Which was great to see. But then he was standing there also with Mike Hall, and Mike Hall, not the last play, but I think it was either the second to last play or third to last, where he flushes him out left, and Lamar ends up throwing it away. Mike Hall rushed off the edge, got right around a tackle like it was nothing, and he was like, "I cannot believe how fast Lamar Jackson." He's like, I thought I had him for sure." And he's like, "No, he did not have him." He's like, "I never got close enough to put a finger on him, and I thought I had him done.
Yeah.
He was like, that guy's incredible. And at the end, you're just watching him run around, and we all know you can't cover forever. Now, you knew it had to go into the end zone, which is helpful. And I want to thank all of our defensive backs for not prematurely celebrating to the crowd, as we saw perhaps in other venues in the National Football League.
Jeez.
But yeah, you're just like, let this play end. Like,
make it end.
3 seconds. It was the longest 3 seconds. Yeah. And then when it just hit the ground, and it was, oh man, it was incredible. It was incredible. The Jets game was an incredible night for this city and was just pure celebration. It was not celebration because of a life, and obviously the juxtaposition of this win and the happiness that comes with it and the celebration, but also with the loss of a beloved figure and friend. But this one, it was special. It was almost surreal in a sense. You kind of walked out and you just felt it from everybody, like people just everywhere. Just, we should all be something to strive for, right? Like, we're all, unfortunately, it's just in the way of the world, unless they come up with some new technology, we are all going to pass at some point.
Yeah.
And all you could hope, I think, to be as universally loved as Jim Donovan was. And, we work in a business, and you know this, and Andrew knows this, where because people hear you all the time and your voice becomes so familiar to them, even if they've never met you, they feel like they know you. Mm-hmm. And to be universally loved with an orbit as massive as Jim Donovan's is just speaks to what an incredible human being he was, and the fact that he is so genuine. You can't fake that passion. You cannot fake that emotion. And I think, one of the reasons I think that we had such a great time working together is we both are very kind of passionate and emotional and energetic people. And it was, just thinking about him like hopping up and down when a big run would happen as he's calling it. It's amazing. But just, I think the point I was trying to make was the universal love and admiration and respect for him, and then what that meant in terms of the emotional outpouring and just the feeling. Like, the feeling in that stadium was hard to describe. I was sitting on the countdown set and talking about Jim at the beginning, and as soon as the people were able to come in at 11, the first thing I see is a guy like, "We love you, Jim Donovan," with a sign right there. It comes right down, and I'm just like, yeah, just incredible thing to be a part of, and it just had to be this way. Like, we'd be sitting here, it would be so different had Kyle Hamilton caught that pass. It would be like,
oh, yeah.
It's unfathomable how different it would be, and he didn't. And again, you said it. I know you said it on social. I do follow you. You cannot convince me that he did not have a hand in that. I will not be convinced, and I don't want to be.
No, there were too many. There were too many things that started to stack. Look, the window that he gave us he became such an integral part of this show through the years. Some of my most cherished memories were being him and Deke. Remember years ago, him and Deke would come in the studio and we'd run the 4-man weave, and we would do that, and then we would call him and we'd ask about the horses and how the pony's in good spot, how's the Ponderosa, and we'd have fun with that. And you got a little window into him, and he really appreciated those things. I did a show with him this spring where it was he and I, and we finished up and we'd done 2 hours, and there wasn't a time that we didn't talk. And I'm talking about even in the breaks, much like how you and I do. Like, we go to break, but you and I don't. We just keep talking, and it just becomes a 2-hour conversation. And that's what it was like with Jim. And I've told this story before. I'll tell it briefly again because I know people have heard it before. But I married a Cleveland girl, and when her dad found out what I did, he said, "Well, you got to be like Jim Donovan." And I didn't know who Jim was. I was from Montana and then Florida. I didn't know who he was. I started looking into who Jim was. And I said, well, this is pretty ridiculous standard.
Yeah.
But I'll do the best I can.
Yeah.
And he came up to me once at Ohio State. And it was before I met him. And he said, I really like what you do on the Ohio State stuff with the Buckeye Blitz. And that was as if God told me I'd done it okay.
Yeah.
And it was like, that was good. So get to know him the way that I did. And I certainly didn't know him the way you did. But get to know him the way that I did was truly one of the more meaningful things that I've ever happened in my career. And He's such a titan of this town, and I just thought everybody crushed it yesterday. And you're right. If it doesn't win, it's different. As the night ended, I went outside. I was walking the dog, and it was the most unbelievable sunset for this time of year. I mean, it had every color in it, and the leaves were changing, and autumn, and all of it. I thought, well, I don't know how you do better than that, Cleveland. I don't. Win, that night, that day, all of it started crisp, warmed, perfect sunset. Come on. Hey. Come on. So many good laughs. So many. All right, we are obviously loaded up today. The Hoff will join. Mike Tirico is going to join us as well. Chris Rose is going to join us. Andrew, of course, was on the call. He will join us as well. We're going to talk a little football too, because it was
a lot to
like. It was a lot of football and a lot to like about what you saw from your Cleveland Browns. Those are your hot topics of the day, presented by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. The Hoff in studio with us next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
This is Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, now live in Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
He was just the sweetest, kindest person, and I think, you know, when you listen to Jim and him and the storytelling that he would get into in a broadcast was just like anything I've ever heard before. I mean, I've worked in television and worked with some great people, Hall of Fame announcers, and I would say Jim is definitely in that class as far as a Hall of Fame announcer. And the way you felt like you were just talking to your best friend or your grandfather and, you know, walking through the game or giving you advice, that's who he was. I mean, he was a fighter, a huge heart. And, you know, I think if you put it into family, faith, and football, but I don't know, Jim might have put football up there first with the Browns. So, yeah, I mean, it's truly gonna be missed and unreplaceable.
You're up.
All right, there you go. Our one of our owners, J.W. Johnson, there with the guys yesterday. The Hoff in studio here. Leaf Filter, the official gutter guard of your Cleveland Browns. Go to leaffilter.com/GoBrowns to schedule your free gutter inspection and receive your exclusive promo offer. That's leaffilter.com/GoBrowns. Visit today. You were first of all, it's so great to see you in person. First time
it's the
in
best.
A long
Wonderful
time since we've seen the Hoff. What was that like for you?
It was incredible. I mean, you just felt the energy in the stadium for a lot of reasons, but obviously with the big news of the weekend with the passing of Jim Donovan and what he meant to pretty much every Browns fan that walked into that stadium, you felt there was a special energy. There's a special moment that was happening. And as the game went on and it was back and forth and close, I don't know what you guys felt like, and maybe it was different up in the booth, but I just had this calm confidence. I'm like, we're going to win. There's going to be something that happens, and we're going to find a way to win down the stretch. And that was just a feeling that I had. I don't know if you felt it on the sideline, but it was the feeling that even I felt the crowd had around me. Like there was never a point where people were frustrated or in doubt or like, oh, here we go again. It was like, no, here we go, find a way to win. And that was something that I haven't felt certainly this season as a Browns fan.
Yeah, in that regard, it was awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's how we felt in the booth. We had to win. Like there just wasn't another outcome that seemed honestly feasible, even though we were tremendous underdogs and nobody in the world thought we were going to win that game. We just had to win. We had to win. I wonder what my score was. It had to be close to that because I think I was like maybe 27, 24, or 20. I was close to it. I was right in the vicinity. Yeah. But
in a season,
we knew we were going to win.
When everything that could go wrong everything that had to go right did.
Yes. I mean, when Jim knocked the ball out of Kyle Hamilton's hands, it was just like we're definitely winning now. I mean, that was it. That was game. Yep. That was good night, Irene.
That's done.
Dunsky.
We had some friends that were up in the suite with us, and I was sitting next to my buddy Patrick, and he saw from our angle Kyle Hamilton making that catch because he had caught it, and then he bobbled it, caught it, and then bobbled it and dropped it. And I was just holding his arm, staring, and as soon as my buddy Patrick saw what he thought was an interception, he turned around, stood up, and was about to throw his hat, and I go, wait, he dropped it! And it was one of those where, like, you could just see the emotions going through his head of, oh my gosh, we lost, to, holy cow, we have a chance, we're still going to win this thing.
Yeah.
And I think that was the feeling of the day from a lot of people, was just that up and down and that emotional roller coaster, but always knowing where the roller coaster was going to end. At least it felt like that. And
we had field goal off the uprights.
Like that. I mean, yeah. And then Justin Tucker missing a field goal. I know he's had a little bit of the yips lately, but just the things that we needed to have bounce in our favor kept happening.
Drops a wide open ball because of the sun.
Yeah, right.
Hits him right in the face.
That was hilarious. I was like, what happened there? Hit him right
Northeast
in the face.
Ohio.
Yeah.
In October.
I know.
The
Beautiful.
sun?
Yeah.
Like,
come on.
Late October.
Come on. No, it was unbelievable. And the football was really good too. And you saw Jameis Winston, and you saw this offense. I mean, Cedric Tillman 9, Elijah Moore 8. Jerry Jeudy 7. It's like, oh, okay, let's go. This was the type of offense. This looked a lot like when they brought in Flacco last year, honestly.
Yeah, seeing the ball come out on time, throwing some of those timing routes where Elijah Moore is at the top of his break, ball's coming out, so he's able to create just enough separation. Ball is on time, it's on the money, making the catch, moving the sticks, converting third down. Just doing the things that good NFL offenses do that we haven't been able to do. And even the times where you shoot yourself in the foot, I think about, we get down to the red zone, don't remember the exact moment, but DeJuan has a false start. And you're like, oh, come on, man. Now we're in a really tough situation. We were able to overcome those things. And it felt like the leaders in the team and the energy of the team was like not going to let any stub toe stop a drive, stop them from being able to go and get what they need on that drive, or at least not kill your spirit, so that when the other side of the ball has to go out, they're ready to come out and play their best football and not be discouraged about what they saw on the other side of the field.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. Third downs, 8 of 15. It's better than 50% conversion, 401 yards. And I'm curious to get your thought. You were up in a suite, so you do have a good vantage point. I've watched back the first half on the All 22. I haven't gotten through the whole thing, but with the exception of I thought Elijah Moore was used a little bit better in this game in terms of letting him run routes like a receiver like we saw against the Jets on that Thursday night where he was so good. It was a lot of the same concepts. It was a lot of the same stuff. It looked very much like Kevin's offense from the time where you had Joe Flacco, where you had, the good mix of the run game. You did some pin pull. You did some, just traditional outside zone. You did a play action from under center off of it, took shots. I just thought it was Jameis's willingness to throw the football into tight windows and to throw with anticipation that was the difference. I think that he was playing like somebody who had nothing to lose and was supremely confident in his abilities to get the ball in. His ball placement allowed for yards after the catch as well. He was sensational. Yes, we got lucky. He threw at least 3 that should have been picked, but they weren't. Great, wonderful. But he was making plays with his arms. 2 for 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, rating of 115. I mean, I think we've got a little bit of a sample size. Quarterback before, 300 yards basically every time. Quarterback after, 300 yards. This offense can function with somebody who is willing and also accurate down the field. And we saw that with Flacco. Now we've seen that with Jameis Winston. And I think that, that's what this thing can be. And we saw it. By the way, Cedric Tillman looks great.
He
Physical,
does.
strong, uses his body well as a shield, and then the ability to break tackles and get behind a defense was great to see. I mean, he was a vertical guy at Tennessee, averaged 17 yards a catch in the SEC, and torched Georgia, torched Alabama, torched the best teams in that conference. There's something about confidence when I run this route and I get open, I'm going to get the ball.
Yeah, give me a shot.
And that was just, unfortunately, not the case through the beginning of this season, and you see what this can look like when that is the case. Line, by the way, incredible in pass pro. Cleve TA had the stat. He had 4.3 seconds, I think, to throw on average, which was the best in years in the NFL. And you could see it. I mean, you get late clean pockets. That's great, but you have to make teams pay, and that's exactly what Jameis did.
You mentioned that the ball to Kyle Hamilton, and we are all convinced. I like how you said that Jim knocked that ball out. For some perspective on the late, great Jim Donovan, NBC Sports' Mike Tirico joining us on the Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea Hotline. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you even more so for what you and Chris and the team did last night of mentioning Jim. I cannot, longtime NBC employee, obviously, Jim was, and I cannot imagine what that meant to his family and what it means to all of us. So thank you, sir.
Well, thanks, pal. It's always good to be with you all. Sorry it is with this as the undertone to it. And first and foremost, my personal condolences. Jim's family. It was so touching to see the outpouring, fans, organization, you guys in the booth. That was just, I teared up watching that video when the Browns posted it this morning. Just our thoughts. What a great guy. And we got the news Saturday during our production meeting, and late Saturday night, Sunday morning, I mentioned to our producer Rob Hyland, Jim is one of family because he called games at NBC for better part of a decade on and off, and the natural tie in addition to that of being Chris's first partner in the booth, and our team got the right shots and got the right pictures, and it was our honor and pleasure to just let the nation know just what so many of you in Northeast Ohio and people around football think of Jim and the impact that he had. And I'm so glad that Chris was able to just kind of put that personal touch on it, being the first guy to do a game next to Chris. And Chris has done hundreds and hundreds of games, and that first partner is always so special because he could walk away and have a terrible experience and go, I don't need to do this. But Jim was the right guy for so many people to do that with, and so glad we're able to spend a brief second to remember Jim at this time.
Mike, Nathan Zagura here. Thank you so much for that and for your words right there. And, as somebody who's done NFL, you've done Olympics, you've done all the major sports, you've done all these huge things. And Jim, some people in this area only know him as, he was a Browns guy. He's done all those things too, World Cups, all of it.
Yes.
How do you bring it, and what did you see from Jim in all those various roles, that kind of that natural passion for so many things in terms of just telling the story of of these great games, regardless of what sport it is?
Yeah, there's a couple of different categories here when you get to cover sports. You get to either work at the national level, and we're blessed to do that, and then sometimes you get to call a team and be the voice of a team. And there's a different connection there. It is the same job, theoretically. And it's not just do you go crazy, get wild when a touchdown scored for your team, but you got to feel the franchise. And you got to feel their heartbreak, their disappointment. And very often, this is talked about with the presidents of the United States very often. Like, sometimes you become the comforter in chief. Like, for a lot of fans, and Browns fans have needed that for many years here, you need that person who understands, who gets it, who gets you. And Jim did that, and not only did he have the ability to do that, but also on a national level when he was doing the national stuff back earlier in his career. It was the guy who showed up on TV and just had that very trusted voice, face, and approach to the game with an energy and kind of a juice and a lilt in his voice that made you feel like the guy who's talking about the game was thrilled to be there. It didn't matter the hotel, the travel, the 7-day work week, whatever it was. Jim was just always happy to be there describing sports and sharing what he saw and observed with you at home. That's not a quality that you can go to school and learn. That's an innate personality trait that you're born with, that you have, that you practice on a daily basis. You guys lived it far more than I did. My times around Jim, too brief for me, but over the years, whether it was the Browns doing a Monday night game or coming to Cleveland for something else, see Jim when the Cavs had their role and I was living, in the arena downtown in Cleveland, whatever its name was at that point. There was just a warmth and love of sports that Jim had that was genuine, that you got. And I think anybody who listened to Jim call any game, if you're a Browns fan or not, you're like, this guy loves what he does. And I think that came through when he did the national stuff and, of course, in spades with his work, not just with the Browns, but in the local TV market as well.
When you said you found out in the production meeting Saturday, you're getting ready for your game Sunday night. And, by the way, you guys ended up having a pretty entertaining game by the end of it there.
Yeah.
When you saw the result, were you kind of following? But when you saw that the Browns beat the Ravens, which was incredibly improbable, I would imagine, to everybody outside of us who knew Jim, and we're just like, they have to win. There's just no other way. What was kind of your reaction to the Browns actually getting that win, knowing the emotion and what he meant to everybody?
I'll tell you two stupid things here that are just really unique to me, and this is not a time or day about me, but when I heard the news Saturday afternoon, the first thing I did, we kind of mentioned it and just talked about it and just took our moment to just share a little thought about Jim. And seeing Jim a couple of years ago when we did the Hall of Fame game and the Browns were playing there, and talked about that for a moment, which was really the last time I got to see Jim and talk to him for a little bit. And then I opened up the computer and said, who do the Browns play again tomorrow? Because, you're doing your game and you look at the schedule during the week and you got up and you're who's playing? And you go, oh, okay. Okay. And then honestly, and this is just being super candid because Andrew is one of my friends. He's part of our Syracuse Mafia. He's one of my favorite people in this business. I was like, man, Andrew's going to have, and you too, Nathan, especially thinking Andrew, because our friendship is going to have like one of those days that you just hope that you hit the right note and the right tone and you do the job the right way. And you guys did. I popped in and listened to a little of y'all on the NFL app during my day, and then couldn't wait to hear the call at the end of the game when I watched that last play out. For all of us, this is our business, our industry, our little world, and anybody's in that little world, you kind of care about them in a different way. And I was so glad to hear how you all handled the excitement of the play, beating the big team on the block in the division here in Baltimore, along with Pittsburgh, of course. But also just to hear the emotion of it and to see it then as I saw the video this morning. It was like all those thoughts I had on Saturday and just watching them play out on Sunday. I'm like, that every once in a while, no matter what your depths of your religious beliefs are, from non-existent to very spiritual, sometimes you go, well, that just doesn't happen by accident, and that just kind of felt like one of those days. And you guys handled it with extraordinary class, care, passion, and connected, which is what Jim always did in his broadcast every time I got to listen to him.
Yeah, Mike, that's the thing, the word connected that you use there. And you're a Detroit guy, and in this part of the country, the winters sometimes start early. The winds maybe aren't as plentiful as we would like, but the warm blanket is the voice sometimes of the man who's the voice of your team. And there's a relationship in this part of the country with our sports teams that I think is a little different than everywhere else because it's needed. And I think when you think of the importance of it, that it just is a little bit different. And for a guy who's a Boston native to be so specifically Cleveland and represent this fan base and this team, that part of it hits a little different too, does it not?
Yes, it's a great observation, and it's well said. Hey, I'm a New York guy. I grew up in New York. I grew up a Mets and Jets fan as a kid. I've outgrown that, thankfully. I grew up a Mets and Jets fan, went to Syracuse. I've lived in Michigan half my life, and I'm associated with Michigan far more than I am New York. And I didn't even do local sports or a local team here. I just live here. You know, I think all of us who live in the Midwest live in flyover country. Like, are you going to talk about the Jets and the Cowboys one more time on Get Up or the other shows or Stephen A. Smith show? And all, like, you know, and look, it's a ratings deal. The Fox shows in the morning do it too. I mean, I'm done. There are other teams in the league. There are other cities in the league. How many people talked about what the Guardians were doing this year during the year? Very few. And then they get in the playoff series with the Yankees. Oh my gosh, this team is really good. This that way from the start of the year. Just because of all of us living here in flyover country, you don't get the publicity. But the people who are here get the people who care. And that brings us back to Jim and that connective point. And it goes beyond the Browns games for me. You know, traveling around the country and having a lot of people who do this for a living, local sports on the television newscast becomes a little bit of an accessory in the bigger markets. Not in cities like Cleveland, cities like Detroit, in the market that I live in, not in Chicago. People want that as part of their news. And we see it on Sunday Night Football. You go to a town for a primetime game, it's the top story in the newscast for 2 or 3 days, right? People are excited about the game. The sports department has 2 or 3 people covering the Browns and the Guardians is a must, and the Cavs when they're playing well, right? There's that connection that's different. I think that cemented Jim's connection because not only was he with you with Doug for so many years in the booth, for those 16 Sundays, so many of them disappointing with the Browns, but he was also with you every night, dinner, 11 o'clock news, that presence, doing some news as well during his time. Like that local connection, you become somebody who's connected with everybody in the city.
Yep.
And they know you because they see you around, they see you at the community events, they see what your connection is, and you can't fake that. That's not a guy who's come in off a tomato truck from some other city and is doing his 3 years and moving on. He put down roots because he left a part of him here along the way. And that, to me, just really galvanized Jim's connection to Cleveland because he wasn't just the voice of the Browns. He was the dean of the TV sports departments in town. And, you know, with big sports, hey, let me go see what Jim has to say about this tonight, right? And just that doesn't happen in a lot of cities. And so to me, that cemented the connection even more. And the right guy to do it, too, to be through and through Cleveland, even though your birth certificate may say some other part of the country.
Mike, we thank you so much for your time and you and Chris and everybody at NBC for what you guys did last night and your kind words and giving us some of your time today. Thanks, pal.
Least we could do. Thoughts to all of you all, and bravo for you guys just doing it absolutely pitch perfect last week, and many more wins to come, hopefully, for Cleveland. That was fun to watch. We are dying to get back there for a Sunday night game. I know we're on the schedule at the end of the year. That doesn't look like a game that was going to hold up, but who knows? Strange things happen, so keep it rolling. And I appreciate you reaching out to me to come on today. It's an honor to share the thoughts of one of the truly great people to do this. So you all take care, and
thank you,
our
Mike.
prayers and thoughts with you all.
Thanks, Mike.
That was beautiful.
Mike Tirico, NBC Sports, joining us on the Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea Hotline. Incredible stuff there. Hoff, what was your introduction to Jim?
I think the day that I got here to do my press conference after being drafted, I remember meeting him and Doug Deacon that were in that press conference, and then they were standing in the hallway. As I walked out, kind of befuddled after meeting the local media for the first time, being drafted, I think 24 hours before, and he became a warm, friendly face immediately. And you realized that this was a person that you could connect with, that was as much a fan as he was a broadcaster. And I think the connection that he made within the locker room with a lot of players, you saw, first of all, after the game, how many players were tweeting and putting on social media, "This one's for you, Jim," and things of that nature. That immediately, when you meet a guy like that, hey, we got somebody special that's on our side, that's trying to tell our story to the fans.
Bo said it earlier. I mean, for at least a decade that you were here, there were two things you could count on: that you would be elite at left tackle, and that Jim would be elite in the booth. And that's what we had. That was Cleveland football, So, yeah, and he does. He part of it's because players. I've been fortunate in my role, right, to be able to have really good relationships with a lot of players. You and I certainly have gotten closer now post your career, but from the time that I was here, when somebody was drafted, I was the first person they talked to. And, you like anything, you have your guys and your favorites or whatever. But I think that's such an important thing. And when you guys, players know if somebody's a phony or whatever, if they genuinely are supporting you, and you guys always knew Jim was absolutely genuine in his support and that was as straight a shooter as they came, that matters, right, in the locker room.
Absolutely. And I think he was on your side, but he also didn't sugarcoat it if things were poor.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I think that's why he connected so well to the fans, because they didn't feel like he was just some homer paid by the team. But also from a player standpoint, it was like your coach being up there. Like if your coach tells you did something wrong, you should probably pay attention. If Jim is sounding the alarm or being honest in the booth the way he always was, like, you can't get mad at him, right? He's not criticizing you as a person. He's criticizing the performance and being real about what he's seeing to paint a beautiful canvas for all the fans that are sitting at home listening to his broadcast.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think that is that's it. Because when you do that job, you are the conduit between team and fan. And yes, he was compensated by the Cleveland Browns to be the voice of the Cleveland Browns, but you have to have the credibility with the fans. And to have that credibility, you have to be able to explain and speak what you see. And you can do that. And I know this because he and I have talked about this before. And we were talking once about, especially now with as I was getting older and Jim was getting older and going down and talking to guys in the locker room. And I do radio down in Columbus and this show that we do. I've always felt like I could say anything that I said on the airwaves to a player. And if I couldn't do it, then I'm not saying it. And that's how that he and I, we connected on that exactly. He said, he goes, critical, yes, fair, always.
And it can't be personal.
No,
and I think that's one of the things.
That's the key.
And I'll tell you what, I give this organization a great deal of credit, because I think a lot of people were probably even concerned for me when I went into that role, like, could I be fair and be honest about what I was seeing? And they give me, there's Cleveland Browns Daily, and then there's the games. And in the games, it's, you call it like you see it, as long as you're fair. And boy, did I get my second game ever in the booth was where we blew we lost an unlosable game to the New York Jets, and it had to be critical. People were like, whoa, okay, all right, you're going to tell it like it is. Because I'm like, yeah, this was bad. This was unfathomable. So, yeah, and he did such a great job with that. It is, and the thing is, when Jim was critical or you knew it wasn't good enough, it was coming from a place like, I just want this to be good because we need to win. This is about, we're all in this together. You're saying what the fans are feeling. Like, come on. Like, hey, come on.
Hey.
We got to be better than that,
I think it's cool hearing a lot of people talk about how great of a broadcaster Jim was, which anybody that heard his broadcast understands how talented he was. But you hear so many people talking about the type of person he was and the human he was off the field. And what you just said reminded me this weekend. I walked down the stairs and my son and my oldest daughter were talking about their sister in not very nice terms. And I said, don't say anything about your sister that you wouldn't say if she was standing in the room with you, right? And I think that's such a measurement of like the quality of human being that you're around. If they're the same person, whether the people we're talking about or the things we're talking about. You'd be willing to say if they were right there because they're honest, they're from the heart,
right?
They're truthful. But that just speaks to the type of person he was and why he was such a great conduit between players and fans, because he was going to say the same thing no matter what. He was calling balls and strikes in a beautiful manner with only an artist's brushstroke would be able to do. But he was very fair about it and very entertaining with it. And that's exactly the type of person he was off the field.
Yeah, old school. That's the other thing. A very old school. You think of the people that he admired, those Boston Johnny Most, those Boston
Johnny
sports legends that he would listen to, and he would bring the recorder. And we just talked this summer about, right before you guys took off to the Greenbrier, and he was on, and we were talking about, I saw the Bobby Orr statue that's outside of the Garden, and he was Reed told that story. I loved hearing him tell that story about he was at that game. He would bring his tape recorder. He would video, or not video, there's no video. He would record himself into his recorder, into a cassette, and then play it back like he was practicing. He was at the old Boston Garden for that game.
He would send it to the announcers, whether it be the Celtics announcer or the Bruins announcer. And then there was actually Jason Lloyd and Zach Jackson have done a great job with some of their pieces on The Athletic. And one of them, they were telling a story that he went, I think he was 12 at the time, and went to Bobby Orr's hockey camp.
Yeah.
And brought the tapes and was like, "Hey, would you listen to him?" And Bobby Orr was like, "You're pretty good at this. Like, you might want to do this." Yeah. And so I thought that was a cool story that I got from their article. But that's why I say to people all the time, like, you don't understand. This is all he's ever wanted to do.
Yes.
He knew he wanted to do it from the time that he was a very young man. He was as in awe of and had the utmost respect for the play-by-play guys, maybe sometimes as much as even the players or the teams. That was what he was into. So to think about somebody whose life's work or their childhood dream was to do this, started by recording themselves in arenas. Like, could you imagine being in an arena, a guy sitting next to you as a kid and is doing play-by-play? You're like, what is going on here? No. And then he ends up becoming the voice of a franchise that will echo in eternity, forever, that he will always be linked to the Cleveland Browns and be the voice of the Cleveland Browns. It's amazing. And I think that's part of it. Like, when you talk about, he is so genuine because this is genuinely, it's just him. And this is what he's wanted to be. He didn't say, "Oh, I have a cool voice," or, "Oh, I'm going to, broadcasting seems like a good thing for me." No, was in his blood. This is all he wanted to do. And I feel like that resonates also with Cleveland. This is a hardworking town where people have dreams and they go and they work for them. They say, "This is who I want to be," or "This is what I want, but nothing's going to be given to me. I'm going to work every step of the way to do it." And he did that. I think it's incredible. It's why he's in many ways a broadcast hero and an icon to so many. And I do think you're right. His style was a rare breed at this point. And it's so classic and it's so good. He's incredible.
Yeah, you're already see fewer and fewer people do it that way. And I hope not. I hope that not, because there's something comforting to me to hear someone describe a game the way. Now you're not going to have the gifts Jim had, but to go about it that way was
just the detail. As my friend Beatbox would say, he paints or he weaves a rich tapestry with his words, and he most certainly did that.
Absolutely. Second hour of the program coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily. We're brought to you by Ballybet, sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, now live in Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
This is Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, now live in Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
I first met him when he was with NBC, and I was doing the Chiefs radio games in Kansas City. And that was in the late 80s, early 90s, as I recall. It was the first time we crossed paths. And I had heard his highlights before and heard his voice before, but was always mesmerized by his terrific voice and delivery. And then when you meet him with the big smile, Jimmy always came up with a handshake, and he was always so kind and gave such great warmth that he always stuck in your mind as one of the guys you'd kind of like to be like, kind of like to follow in his footsteps. And I can see why Cleveland embraced him so much, because of his energetic style and the way he was on the air, but off the air with his wife and daughter Megan.
You guys are going up.
Great husband and terrific father, and he really had the complete life.
Second hour Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, reliving, quite honestly, a miraculous Browns win on Sunday, and of course, in homage to the great Jim Donovan. That was Kevin Harlan, who called into pregame yesterday and shared his thoughts. We really appreciate everybody in that impact for doing so. The Hoff is here, Z is here, and I am here as well here, and we have Chris Rose, I believe, on the Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea Hotline. Chris, thank you so much for your time, bud. Your reaction to yesterday, and it was storybook, pal. It really was.
It was, guys. I appreciate you having me on today. It was surreal, like watching the game. As you guys know, with my NFL Network duties, I'm watching with a bunch of guys that I'm very close with, and have been for a dozen years. They know where my passions lie. As far as the game went, it was great to see them resemble the team that we thought that they could be in the preseason. Nathan, when we were doing the games, and Bo, when we were talking about it. That part was special. The rest of it, obviously, I thought a lot about you guys and you, Nathan, and Andrew up there in the booth, and obviously about Jim and his family. These jobs that we get they're more than just jobs. We are connective tissue to communities, to fan bases. There's nothing that gets people excited, riled up, frustrated, passionate, loving, energized, deflated, more so than the sports world. We go buy jerseys of our favorite players. We don't do that for our favorite actors or our favorite musicians or politicians. We don't do that. We do it for our athletes because we love the way this makes us feel. And so when you get people who have the responsibility of telling the story and connecting the organizations and the players and the athletes and the coaches to the fans, that's a huge duty. Yeah. And the way that Jim did it was incredible. It really it combined the perfect tone of seriousness when he needed that. He would sprinkle in great humor, and a guy who needed it over 25 years when we saw as many losses as we did. It would have been very easy for him to be a caustic, bitter, and that is so not who he was. And I just think we're all thankful as Browns fans that we had him in our lives for 25 years calling games and for almost 40 years in this community.
Did you, watching that game, we've talked about it, I kind of felt this way. Hoff said he felt this way. Did you just know they were going to win that game? Like, did you just feel like it just had to be that way?
Well, when Bateman and Hamilton both had footballs in their mitts and didn't catch them, like those are usually plays that are made against the Browns. And so when they didn't, I was like, what's going on here? Like you're like, okay, this is it. And even as I'm watching the game, my oldest son, Josh, is texting me. He's like, we're going to do it, aren't we? And I was like, I think so. He's like, come on, Dad, this is like different. And I was like, you know what, bud, you're right. So, yeah, it was excruciating watching that last drive, but it was the minute the ball sailed out of the end zone at the end, it was great. It was great.
Yes, it was.
Rosie, it's Joe. Good to speak with you. It's been so long since I saw you in London a few days ago.
So you're across the pond. That's a stateside conversation.
Hope your trip to Paris was well and you finally got to sleep a little bit. I know when we were doing the game in London, not a lot of shut-eye for you with the time change and everything. But I'm just curious with your experience with Jim Donovan, if you have any good anecdotes of times that you've spent with him or things that you've possibly learned from him over the years and as you have gotten to know him in his role with the Cleveland Browns.
So it's interesting. You know, I haven't lived in Cleveland for basically since I was a kid in college. That was a long time ago. But once I became a professional in the same business that Jim Donovan did, and once I started kind of covering the Browns and coming around practices, that's kind of where our relationship started to grow. And then, obviously, in 2023, myself and Andrew split duties while Jim was taking care of his health. And all I can tell you is that he was great during that time. It was a job that, even though I dreamt of doing it as a kid, I didn't want to do it in that situation. And the first night I had a game was that Monday nighter, week 2 in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And about an hour before kick, Jim sends me a text. He goes, "Have the time of your life. You're going to crush it." And that it kind of put me at ease. And I appreciated it so much that a guy he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to send me a note. We weren't close friends, for instance, but he reached out and he thought enough of me and the respect for the position of calling the Browns games on radio to just say, hey, listen, go enjoy yourself, go relax. And then, of course, the first play is the tip pick six. I was like, Jim, where are you? Help!
Oh, I remember that one. I remember that one. Looking at you, being like, "Oh man, welcome to the booth, brother." And then Nick Chubb in the second
don't worry,
quarter.
Nathan, I won't repeat what was said during the commercial break right after that.
You know, you're talking about Jim, and just to see the outpouring of support. You're in this industry where people know you through your voice, and they know you because they've listened to you. And the thing that I just keep going back to that is so powerful to me is just what a big orbit he had, right? And how universally beloved that he was. And I think that, for Cheryl and Megan, just to see the world at large react this. We just had Mike Tirico on, who shared great words. We heard from Kevin Harlan right before that. We heard Collinsworth last night on the broadcast. But there aren't many like that. Not only in his style, it's what he wanted to do his whole life, but to be that genuine and to be that beloved is an incredibly powerful connection that he had, as you mentioned, connective tissue for Browns fans worldwide.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest with you. In Cleveland, we have had the good fortune of having some amazing, amazing voices call our games. And for me as a kid, I wanted to be Nev Chandler, who, was the voice of the Browns in the 80s. And that was really kind of during the glory years of when I was growing up, winning 5 division titles and making the AFC Championship in 3 of 4 seasons and stuff like that. Joe Tate, the legendary voice of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Tom Hamilton, who's done it for 3 decades for the Guardians now, and Jim. And it is so special when you have those people that are here, that want to immerse themselves in a community, that don't want to use Cleveland as a stepping stone, that want to be something to everybody in this town. And I imagine that his family does take solace in the fact that this is a business where people are constantly taking shots at you. I can't stand the way this person calls a game or what this person says on TV. When you're universally loved, that is a rarity, man.
Yeah.
That is a rarity. Not once did I ever hear, yeah, Jim's okay. He's okay. He's okay at play-by-play. What you always heard was, he is great. He is energetic. He tells a tremendous story. He paints an incredible picture, and he has an aura of positivity that is not found in a franchise that doesn't have a ton of great moments in the last 2.5 decades. It really is. It's something special, and I think we could probably all learn something from Jim.
That's why Bake's rookie year, once he came in and the change happened, 2020 and COVID, where you guys were the entire conduit. I mean, it was all that's missing is all of you and all of that. And also last season when he was able to return. I mean, that's why those all meant so much, because what you just described with Nev, Chris, Jim didn't have that. It was kind of the only thing missing. He did not have that consistent success season in and season out, calling playoff games and being able to do those things, and to go to Pittsburgh and call a playoff win, to go to Kansas City and on the precipice of getting a victory in that one, and all. He
didn't even get to go to Pittsburgh. I don't think
that's
he
true.
ever got
he
to call a playoff game in person, a victory in a playoff game in person.
That's right, because you were the only one there.
I was there.
You were there. That's right.
In an empty stadium.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's right. But he got to call that game.
Got to call that game, yes.
And so
that's great.
Of course, but that and the Jets game. You think about all the Jets game with Bake, the rookie year too, all of those things. The winning, he deserved that winning. Damn it, he did.
Yep. Yes, he most certainly did. And I mean, you think about the Jets game last year. You think about the Steelers game where he comes back and smashes the guitar, and you win on DTR, leads an improbable game-winning drive against the Steelers defense, and D-Hop puts it through. Yeah, he was. That's the only thing that he didn't have, was winning and getting to an AFC championship game, a home playoff game, all the things that in other cities, if you're the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, you would probably take that for granted. That's like automatic. But it didn't matter, and his greatness was still unparalleled. His passion was unparalleled, and it is kind of remarkable. And obviously, I think so many people obviously want the Browns to win that game, but that's what. I wish we'd won a Super Bowl so Jim could have called, for Jim.
Yeah.
And obviously, hopefully that still comes to be in the future. But yeah, that's what makes it even more remarkable to be. It's one thing to be beloved, and you think about, even we talk about sometimes uniforms. Well, those uniforms are associated with them winning, and so people like him, even though maybe they're not the best or whatever. I'm sure it happens with voices of a team that just does nothing but win. You love these guys because they're the voices of winning. For Jim to be this beloved, and quite frankly, was not the voice of winning or Super Bowls or greatness or all of those things, and it didn't matter.
No,
that's remarkable.
No, that goes to what I said earlier.
Him and this man, incredible. In fact, guys, he might have the worst record of any play-by-play guy ever. If you think about it, that's incredible. But he walked in like the team won 80% of the games when he called it. That's think of how upset we all get when our teams don't win. It's heartbreaking. It's frustrating. It's all of that sort of stuff. And I'm telling you, for people that aren't in this industry, the number of people you'll meet who are just, after decades of working, they're like, got to travel to another game. I've got to cover this. I've got to get on this flight. It is a wonderful business to be in. Are there parts of it that are frustrating? Of course there are.
It's the best.
But when you would talk to Jim, there wasn't anything but the excitement, the electricity of being at a ball game, of wanting to tell a great story and paint a picture, and he loved every minute of it. And one of the many things I always appreciated about his style was that, he works for the Browns, but he's honest.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. We as fans want honesty. We don't always want to hear that everything's perfect, that everything is ideal, because it's not. The ebbs and flows from year to year are they'll take you on an emotional roller coaster that you have to double tuck your seatbelt to make sure that you're ready for it. And when things weren't going great, he would tell us that. And even if he didn't want to hear it, I thought it was really, really important, and it's something that I think that a lot of us that are in this business can take to heart.
One of the things, Chris, that I get to tell people about you of our few times we've got to work together that makes it so enjoyable for me is that you bring that energy and that excitement, that enthusiasm to every game. You know, that was the theme for our production meetings going into the 1-5 New England Patriots versus the 1-5 Jacksonville Jaguars. It's like, hey guys, this is the only game on TV. Show that energy. And I'm like, I'm with Chris Rose. This is going to be fun. I don't care if this is the 1-5 Super Bowl. And I think that's one of the things that you do the best. And I'll, maybe say that it's partly because you grew up in Cleveland. And so that's part of the fabric of who you are. And it comes across when you are on the air. But give us a little context, because I think that's maybe the thing that we should highlight the most about Jim is that he was so good and so beloved, even though when I was there, we went 1-31 my last 2 seasons. And Jim was the same energetic guy going into every single one of those games. And he brought joy with everything he did. And even in the good and the bad, there was joy behind it and an optimism that I think seeped through the fan base. And that's why he was such a perfect conduit between the players and the fans, because he was able to give you the emotions of both sides, and sometimes situations that were really hard where probably most people in that business would be just mailing it in or just super grumpy, and nobody wants to hear that, right? They want to hear that energy and excitement, because as fans, you think about the players on the field, what a blessed opportunity they have to go be able to play a kid's game for a king's ransom. And it's the same thing when you're in the booth. And so maybe just give us a little context about how you were able to do that, and then how somebody like Jim could do it over and over again for a team that hadn't had the success, hadn't had the Super Bowls.
Real quick, Chris, let me just hop in here. Gibbe will know this. Jim did a very good job of when he was feeling down or wanted to voice a frustration that it was during a commercial break.
Maybe that's part of it. That's the secret.
And then he would come back on the radio. Sometimes my favorite things to listen to on the sidelines were the commercial breaks. Yes. And he got a little bit of some hard truths. Yes. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Come on, Nathan. The secrets. Keep the secret sauce secret. Come on. But it is important from this standpoint, and I think that, without having talked to Jim about this, I am sure, based on listening to his body of work, that he felt the same way, that someone always cares. Okay? It doesn't matter if at the end of the season you're 2-14 heading into week 18. Somebody out there cares, right?
Yep.
And that's the thing, is that you owe it. When you're doing a broadcast, you owe it that it should be your Super Bowl every week. I mean, just think about what it is we get to do. I don't know how good an athlete Jim was. I know how poor an athlete I was. So the only way I could be involved in professional sports was to do this. And so it's why we all work as hard as we do. It's why we're passionate about what lies ahead. It's why when somebody says, "Oh, you got a crappy game. You've got the Jags and the Patriots." I'm like, wait a second. If you had told 10-year-old me that I'd be standing next to a Hall of Fame lineman doing the only game in the world at that time in London, like, heck yeah, that's a Super Bowl. And as I said, I think that Jim totally felt that way about every assignment he ever had. And that's an important thing when you're a local news or sports anchor. Every story has got to mean something to somebody. And if you're going to dedicate time to a sportscast, you damn well better make sure that it's the best 90-second piece or 3 minutes, however long you're covering the story. Make people care about it. And that's something that he did extremely well in 4 decades of Cleveland sports.
Chris, you're the best, buddy.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us, taking a little bit of time today.
Absolutely, guys. I appreciate it. I know it's a sad, sad time. It's you guys are hurting bad, and Nathan, you and I have obviously chatted. We as a fan base are crushed. I think we have to know that for like 2.5 decades we were treated to something special with the Browns over the airwaves, and for 4 decades in Cleveland, we had a guy who didn't even grow up here, and it sure as hell sounded like it did. Yeah. So we all love Jimmy, and we appreciate him and respect the hell out of him and his family.
Well said, pal. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that's Chris Rose. He joined on the Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea Hotline, and we thank him for his time. Your great clips, great clip of the game coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, now live in Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
There is never a day that goes by that I am not proud to say that I am the radio voice of the Cleveland Browns. Count it down, everybody! The Browns are winners tonight!
Jim brought a joy and a professionalism and a work ethic to the job that is unmatched.
Flacco drifts right, throws, and he's got Cooper open! He caught it! 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! I don't believe it!
45, 50, 45, 40, run, William, run! 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown!
An amazing story! The Browns will get their 11th win of the year. They'll go to 11-5, and they're going to the playoffs. The loudest cheer of the night is happening right now, and number 6 is ready to go. Now, don't be jealous, Doug. Kendall Lamb just caught a touchdown.
It's just been an incredibly lucky town for me to be with you for as long as we have been together. I really loved it.
30, 25, 20, he's got blockers in front, 5, touchdown! Joshua Cribbs turns disaster into a score!
100 yards!
You might just be a voice when it starts, but the essence of him came through over that 3-hour broadcast.
He's going for Landry down by the end zone, a tumbling catch for a touchdown! What a catch by Landry! Then they flip it around, then they throw it, and Mayfield caught it! It's the Philly special, Cleveland style! I love it! There he goes to the 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! OBJ, he's got a hat trick! Well, Baker Mayfield, here you go. Just the way you like it. There goes Chubb! He's to the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown! Shabba-lubba hub! Touchdown! He got it! He got it! The rookie from Michigan got it! They come back and win 21-17. Hallelujah! And the only thing that's missing, all of you. Looking for Kevin Johnson. Ball is tipped. Johnson got it! He got it! He got it! Touchdown Browns! The Browns have won their first game! You are cordially invited to the NFL postseason.
Jimmy always stuck in your mind as one of the guys you'd kind of like to be like, kind of like to follow in his footsteps.
Ball down. Kick block! They blocked the kick! Jamie Meter! Snap back. He's into it. Line drive. End over end. The kick is up and it is. And it is good! Can you get the field goal from 58 yards out with 8 seconds left to go in the ball game?
I have thoroughly enjoyed being here with all of you through all of this. It's been unbelievable.
You guys ready?
Yep.
You're going up.
That is beautifully done. That is our great clip of the game. Great clips. It's going to be great. Chris Oldak, very, very talented.
Yep.
Great job out of you, Chris, putting that together. Awesome.
Actually, this coming up is the great clip of the day. Because I felt like we needed to have a little fun.
Okay. So this is you go ahead.
No, so Chris sent me that. He said, hey, I don't know if you can do anything with this. I put it together this morning on the Really Big Show, and I said, absolutely, I would play that again.
Very good.
So shout out to him and the crew there for that, and was happy to do it. This is our great clips, multiple clips, as we have found over the last 12 years.
These are not of the week. These are of the
These are not the behind-the-ear commercial ones. Trust me, those would be much better. All right, hit it, Kev.
Jim, this crowd was chanting Heineke, Heineke. They are not happy with this start from Carson Wentz.
See, I thought they were calling the beer guy and calling Heineken, Heineken.
O'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
You know, back in the days when I was trying to audition to become a Vienna choir boy, I could hit that note. But when she just hit that note, that was painful. I'll tell you what, great job. Shotgun snap. McCown back up in the pocket. Comes over to the right. Going to throw the ball into the Rams sideline. Incomplete. One of the Rams team doctors drops it at the 28-yard line out of bounds.
Well, he got flushed to his right side, and there was only one receiver down the field on his right side, and he was well covered.
I hope that doc is not a hand specialist because he doesn't have any. Shotgun, Whedon back to pass, looking right, throws to the middle, it's picked off, and it's going to go for a touchdown. William Gay's got it. He jumped in front of Jordan Cameron, and the Steelers are in again.
Those are some of the chances you can take when you got a lead of 17 points.
26-3. You know, Doug, isn't it nice, even in the pain of this loss today, some of the fans as they leave just waved up and said, Jim, have a nice Thanksgiving. 26-3, Pittsburgh changes sides out of a shotgun. Huntley's got it, back to pass, looks, throws, and Jadeveon Clowney smacked it down like it was beach volleyball. And you could remember that, Doug. I know you follow around the Jose Cuervo beach volleyball tour.
Just the female part.
I mean, I love when Nathan does the wah, wah, wah. But I'll tell you what I just did. When he fumbled, I went, because that was bad.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Beautiful.
I was hoping, Gibbe, what I was trying to say to you was in the preseason, obviously at times the preseason games can be difficult, and you have to really dabble into your bag of entertainment tricks to keep the masses entertained. But for the last couple of years, John Kelly was basically the star of the preseason.
We could not find it. I'm
we played
it multiple times.
Irish
him singing
song Kelly. It used to crack me up every single time. There goes Kelly. Kelly. K-E-L-L-Y.
K-E-L-L-Y.
Yeah.
Isn't
Kelly.
it? You know what it's? I think it's the same. I could be wrong. Don't hold me to it. I think it's the same in the DiCaprio movie Catch Me If You Can, when he's goes to New Orleans and he's like trying to become, he's a doctor and he's becoming a lawyer and all that, and he's sitting down. I think that family is singing along to that show.
Song? Okay.
I think I have that right.
I don't know. He used to sing it for John Kelly.
He would sing it for John Kelly, yeah.
John Kelly had his own song in the preseason, so there you go.
That's beautiful. If a car, truck, or motorcycle accident caused you injury, call the injury lawyers at 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk & Elk is a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Yeah, that's it. It's been a heck of a celebration, and it's when we were talking about guys who. Those type of guys, I think of Marty Brenneman down in Cincinnati and how he was that with the Reds for so long, and you almost become bigger than the operation at some point. Vin probably had that certainly with the Dodgers. Those guys that do it for so long, and you become the voice of it. How about Friday night, buddy? Did you see that mashup? I don't know if you did or not. I just was curious.
Yeah, I did happen to see it. Did you also know that they both happened at 8:37 p.m. Pacific time?
I've been out on baseball, but that one almost.
Hoff is a young man. Just to give you a quick background, as a young man, Bo was a Dodgers fan. I was an A's fan. We had season tickets, went all the time, and Kirk Gibson hitting that home run off of Dennis Eckersley and doing all this nonsense is one of probably top 3 least favorite sports moments of my entire life. It's one of his favorites, and he has no problem reminding me about it. And obviously, Freddie Freeman's walk-off grand slam to right field, and then the call. The guy to say
he did it.
He said she's gone as a nod, which was incredible.
Yes.
That's one of those things that you could go in as a broadcaster and think, okay, I want to say that in this moment if it were to somehow happen that they're going to hit a walk-off homer to right field off, but then to actually do it is incredible.
Crazy. Yeah. Joe did that a couple years ago in homage to his dad too, which was very cool. Yeah. So
let's take a quick break. The Parade of Stars continues. Phil Dawson will join us next, along with Andrew Sicilian.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Hey, with yesterday's win, Tito's Handmade Vodka proud to support the Cleveland Browns through the Tito's Victory Vodka program by committing to a $1,000 donation to the Cleveland Animal Protective League towards its mission to foster compassion and end animal suffering. Thank you, Tito's. Sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka, 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. So Andrew will join us, Phil Dawson as well. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
I grew up at a time where the NFL on NBC was a big part of my youth, growing up and dreaming of being a sportscaster, and Jim was a part of that crew. So I knew Jim as one of the voices of the NFL on NBC. So when I met him all those years later, and now I'm in the business, you have no idea what you're walking into. You imagine what these broadcasters are like, but you don't know them. You think you know them. And how fortunate was I to meet someone that I looked up to growing up and realize, oh, this is a great guy. This is just not someone that was doing play-by-play for the NFL on NBC. This is a person with passion and a person with empathy and a person that wanted to know about you, not just passing by in the hallway with a head nod. So that leaves a real impression on you.
You're going up.
All right, the words of the great Ian Eagle on that, and we thank him for that here on Cleveland Browns Daily. Z is here, the Hoff is here, Bo here, and allow me to tell you about my friends at Jim Beam. What do sports and Jim Beam have in common? Both are better when enjoyed with others. So grab a bottle, gather your friends, enjoy the game, because with Jim Beam you come as fans and you leave as family. Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume. Copyright the 2024 James B. Beam Distilling Company, Claremont, Kentucky. Drink smart. On the hotline we have Phil Dawson. Phil, I got to tell you, when you and Jim were honored earlier this season, and everything that went around that was, I can't even imagine what that meant to Jim, to his family. We thank you for your time today. What did you make of the game and everything that happened down on the stadium?
Well, it was you could feel Jim's presence. I mean, I wish you could have been there to call that one, because that was a good one. The Browns played like the Browns we've been waiting for, and I know the city enjoyed it, and what a tribute it was.
Phil, I was down there with you on the field on that Legends Day, and it's kind of unfathomable to think of where we are now, given kind of the emotion and the support from the crowd that day. But as you kind of were able to soak in that and then carry it forward to just the emotion of this crowd for Jim and this win, kind of what were you thinking in your mind, given that you were the one who got to call him and have that special moment, which I'm sure is something that you will cherish forever, to call him and let him know he'd be inducted in the Legends Club, kind of from there to what ended up unfolding yesterday?
Yeah, I think I said at the time, just when you think an honor can't get any better, you find out you're going to get to call Jim Donovan and tell him he's going into the Legends. I mean, when you think about highlights of a career and special moments, I mean, that's got to be at the top. And it's all because of the love I had for him. And, man, what an incredible human. And NFL life doesn't often allow you time to build relationships, and meaningful ones at that. So many people come and go, and most players are just trying to survive. And I was afforded the opportunity to be in Cleveland a long time and got to know Jim. And, man, just the impact he had, not only on the city of Cleveland and Browns fans, but in the locker room. I don't know how he pulled it off. Most places, when the media comes into the locker room, players kind of get uptight and, oh boy, here comes the media, that kind of thing. But when Jim would come in there was we loved seeing him. I mean, we knew he had our back, but we knew he'd keep it real. And somehow he always knew how to find that balance. And to think of the countless Browns fans, that was the only voice they knew.
Yep.
And the impact he had in that way. I mean, just a man full of integrity, professionalism, class. I mean, it's truly, truly an honor just to have known him. But then when you add on top of that the opportunity to go into the Legends with him, I mean, I really don't have words.
Phil, he supplied the soundtrack for your greatest moments here, and there were a great many. And so then for you to pay it full circle to supply him with that news, I cannot imagine what that meant to you, and certainly to him. And I know you two had a relationship even beyond that as well.
And that's what makes Cleveland so special. I mean, any NFL town, you get Ring of Honor or Legends, whatever that organization calls it. It's incredible. But the relationships that I had with people around the city and inside the organization and out. And, it just happens in Cleveland. I don't know who to give credit to on that. It really doesn't matter. It just happens. And I remember when I first got to Cleveland talking to Doug Deacon and guys like that, and, they try to communicate to you what a special place it is, but you kind of got to live it for a little while. And those 14 years there and thinking about Jim a lot over the weekend, I can't believe just kicker out of Texas, undrafted kid who was just fighting and scratching to make it. Got to get to know a guy like Jim Donovan and call him a friend. And you're right, for it to all come full circle so many years later, I mean, that's as special a moment as I've had in the orange helmet.
Phil, thank you so much for hopping on with us and sharing your recollections and your thoughts. And it means so much to all of us and certainly the Donovan family as well. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, that's Phil Dawson joining us. A couple of notes on the football side of things, and obviously we've been talking about Jim and Sunday and all of those things. Coach Stefanski did have a press conference within the last hour, and Jameis Winston going forward. Jameis Winston is your starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. So that, not unexpected. Jameis played great, but that's the way that this operation will be this week against the Chargers off.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, no surprise there. I think the question moving forward the rest of the season is, where does DTR fit in? And I think a lot of those questions will be answered by how things go in the next few games, right? Can you put yourself into a situation where you are still vying for something meaningful in the division or after the season? How's Jameis playing? What are you looking for to learn about your team for next season? Obviously, Jameis is not under contract next season, but at this point, he's given you the best chance to win. He's bringing excitement and energy and unlocking the potential of those other guys on the offense to really get a good look at what you have if you're not playing for the playoffs down the stretch. If you're trying to find out, about some of these young guys, if you're trying to figure out, who's going to be in our plans moving forward, that you got a guy quarterback who's going to give them a chance to at least show who they can be for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, and I think, Jameis keeps winning, he's going to keep playing. I think at some point if losing starts, then you're going to want to try to get at least a multi-week extended look and a fair look at DTR, because he is, to your point, under contract with you, and he's the one quarterback under contract for next year that will be available to you in the offseason and even at the start of the next season. So, yeah, I think that, look, keep playing like that. Let's go. Because
it's fun again, brother.
It's fun.
Like it was fun.
You're 2-6, but you don't have to lose again. There's nothing that says you have to lose again.
No.
So go on a crazy run and see what happens. And then if you don't, then you'll address that and fully put, right now you probably have a foot in both. And maybe what happened beating the Ravens, that made you slide a little bit of the weight on the side that's in 2024. But once you get to that point, you'll just jump 2 feet into 2025 and go on. And hopefully we don't get to that point. Hopefully we just keep winning. It'd be great.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah,
sign me up.
Sounds fun.
Boost your game day this season with the Ballybet Sportsbook app. Place your first bet of $50 or more, and you get $150 back in bonus bets. Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns.
So my great friend of the program, Kenny Classman, Baby Doll, he chimed in and said the song, because her name was Kelly, and goes on, was from the 1959 episode of the show Bachelor Father. So he sent me the actual song that Jim would reference for John Kelly.
There it is. All right, there you go. So much more to come, including a score. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Loss of Jim Donovan to cancer, voice of the Cleveland Browns on radio for many years, but your first TV partner here at NBC.
First partner ever, just so immensely talented and loved, but one of the sweetest guys you'll ever meet, and he will be sorely missed.
You're going up with less than 2 minutes.
Browns fans, join Cross Country Mortgage and the CBD crew. We're broadcasting live from Black Forest Bar in South Euclid tomorrow 1 to 3. Enjoy free food. Get your picture with Browns mascot Chomps. Have a chance to meet Browns players. Thanks to a Browns player.
Working through all that
thanks
right now.
Thanks to the Cross Country Mortgage Company's Home Field Advantage program. So there you go. We've got a Monday Nighter tonight as well.
So this is for, and you tell me if this jives with what you believed to be true. But we are, oh my God, where'd they all go? Oh, there they go. We are both going into this one, and we did a lot of splitting this week.
I noticed that, yeah.
But we're both going into it at 8
No music will
and
be played,
7.
but 1 minute
so
left.
we got one
You
shot.
need this one, yeah.
As you
Need
might
this
say.
one.
You might
Yeah.
heard some people talking. You only got one shot.
Yeah, you only get one shot.
Don't miss your chance.
I'm not
to
sure the
go-
rest of that lyric
No, don't miss
matched
your
up,
chance to
but-
go 9 and 7 this week. That's what we're looking
G-Men, Squealers, Pitts Puke, hot dog water for everybody.
You love that town. It's your favorite town.
Did you know
love
that,
Do
Huff?
you know that?
I know he loves Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite clear in all of your commentary.
Yeah, not only that, he says
The
that the
nachos?
nachos in the press
Big
box
nachos.
are the best nachos he's ever had.
What
It's
makes a good nacho?
By the way, it's just chips
just
out of a
chip-
bag and like some gross.
Yeah, like Velveeta, melted Velveeta,
Yes.
like nothing special.
And he's like, dude, the greatest nachos ever.
Well,
He loves
I
the
would
big
love to hear him
Pittsburgh guy.
defend himself because I've never heard anybody argue. The
Well, we're up
greatest
against it,
nachos,
kids. Give me a
medium
score.
nachos,
How about that?
okay nachos. They're either nachos or they're not.
Go ahead.
Very
We had
binary.
excellent nachos in Washington. Is that where we were? We did the pulled pork nachos. They were delightful.
Let's go.
Give me
6.
Thank you.
There's a rundown in front of you, but who's counting?
You know what? I'm here being emotional, and I don't appreciate
Oh,
your
God.
shots.
Vulnerable, emotional.
Yes.
And he's taking
Raw.
Gonna step on another call tomorrow.
Yeah. Go to Pittsburgh. Steelers 80. G-Men 77.
Steelers 80, G-Men 73.
Oh, no, I hate being opposite you.
We love you, Jim. We love you,
Yes.
Donovan family. The next love is next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.